The Chamber of Petroleum Consumers says government-imposed VAT rate is not well thought through. The new VAT directive seeks to impose at least 15% taxes on electricity consumers above the lifeline threshold. According to a statement released by the Ministry of Finance Wednesday, the move is in fulfillment of the IMF conditionality, as well as raising enough revenue to deal with the growing energy sector debt. But there is already growing opposition to the tax, as some experts say it will rather slow down revenue mobilization. We start with the former President John Dramani Mahama, who says the move will only increase the cost of electricity. There's more.
The NDC flag bearer was mobbed by people of the Volta region at Sugagope when the Building Ghana tour made entry into the region. At a stakeholder meeting with members of the NDC, Mr. Mahama expressed disappointment in the mismanagement of the power sector. He further commented on the persistent hike in electricity tariff.
Today, Dumso, they are kicking it like a football. Why? Because he wants to kick it over the 7th January 2025 line and hand the trouble over to somebody else. And yet we resolved it before they came into office. Today they put value-added tax on electricity bills. And COVID levy, NHIL levy, GET fund levy, all on electricity bills. And so that is going to send the cost of your electricity bills up. Already there was a 29% increase, there was a 19% increase, then they tried to fool us with a 4% decrease, and now it's going up again astronomically.
Many businesses continue to suffer due to the hike in tariff. John Mahama believes a reduction in government expenditure could help reduce excessive taxes that have resulted in hikes in prices of goods and services.
And it's making Ghana a very difficult place to do business. All business people are complaining. I mean, the owner of this hotel who has given us this resort to do this meeting, you should ask him how much he's paying in electricity bill. And yet, because of the mismanagement of the president and his cousin and his vice president, it has plunged all of us into a difficult situation where they have pledged to the IMF to raise as much revenue as they can. And the point is, while you are raising revenue, reduce your expenditure. Because that's what any sane, reasonable person does. Because if you reduce your expenditure, you can ease the burden that you're putting on the taxpayer. If they cut down the expenditure of the office of the president, they've doubled it. Year on year, budget went up by 82 billion cedis. And so, if you reduce the rise of the budget in terms of expenditure, then you could reduce the incidence of tax. You might not need to place a value-added tax on electricity, so that you pass the relief on to the people of Ghana.
Meanwhile, the former president has assured the NDC will restrain itself from starting new projects, but seek to complete stalled ones.
All the projects that they inherited, they have abandoned. And they themselves have started projects that they know they cannot complete. And yet, instead of finishing the abandoned projects and ongoing projects, they've started new projects, Agenda 111. Some of them are at foundation level, some they've raised the block work, but they know that they cannot finish it before they leave. So what they'll do is they'll just push it on to somebody else and say, oh, we started this, and you came and you've abandoned it. But look at the mess you've created. Where are we going to get money to finish all those projects? But I have pledged that we would restrain ourselves from starting new projects. Whatever little resources that we come and meet, we will send it into completing the ongoing and abandoned projects.
The first day of the Building Ghana tour of the Volta region ended at Outages, where a town hall meeting was held. For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Volta region.
And from Georgia in the Volta region, the Ministry of Energy is yet to reach the final agreement with two independent power producers on the outstanding energy sector debt treatment. Now, the independent power producers have argued that the government of Ghana owes them some $2 billion. Deputy sector minister, that's Japan Mesa, says although 4 power producers have agreed on settlement terms, 2 more are outstanding.
An internal meeting amongst energy sector agencies to try and see how we resolve some other matters in the sector to ensure that there are no outages as we've committed to the people of Ghana this year. We've taken those meetings today, and we've gotten some definitive plans and programs in place to ensure that the commitment that was given to the people of Ghana, consistent with the mandate that His Excellency the President has given my minister, of which we are assisting him, is achieved. No power outages, except when it is an absolute imperative, of which necessarily will have to inform Ghanaians of any eventuality. But it's not going to be as a result of lack of payment and all that. Indeed, and in fact, since August of 2023, all IPP invoices are current. We've gone into an agreement with them where ECG pays them $43 million a month to meet their invoices. There's an outstanding obligation, which you may term legacy, with the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Energy. The government negotiating team is working to restructure and repay over a period of time. That conversation is far advanced. In fact, we reached agreement, exchange term sheets with a significant number of IPPs. The remaining 2 or so is still ongoing, and we will conclude the discussions and make sure that we bring some sanity in terms of the finances in the energy sector.
Well, it's time now to explore the implications of all of this. Joining us now is the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Ghana, Duncan Amwa. Thank you so much, sir, for spending some time with us. And now you say that the VAT policy is not well thought through. Now that at least we know government is planning to roll this out, don't you feel that, first off, it will deal with the challenge we are facing now, 2 outstanding debt issues with 2 independent power producers, at least?
Well, I would grant all that the Honorable Deputy Minister for Energy says, and wish that indeed there could be that assurance to Ghanaians that there's not doom so looming and people can go home believing that there will be power in their homes, or for that matter, the manufacturing sector can go to work believing that their plants won't have to shut down because of no power. But as I speak with you, parts of Winneba off, people are still experiencing the disruptions in power supply, and so it's not entirely accurate that the system is stable, and for that matter, there's no doomsday anywhere. Whatever the challenges are with the financing of the sector, it is our interest that the authorities do not just pay lip service. In fact, these assurances, you recall, last year when the IPPs were up in arms, we were told a conclusion had been come to, and that soon the IPPs were going to start receiving payments. My checks with them indicates that if you do the contractual and the production or the power that they have supplied together with the gas or fuel, we are probably indebted to them in the region of 2.4 billion USD, which says that we neither drawing down on the debt, neither are we even making efforts to make them comfortable. So we are just piling up debts in the sector, and as and when the West African gas pipeline decides that we're not going to put gas further, when you haven't paid us what you owe us, then the system collapses. So it's as though we are walking on thin ice. It's melting. We are not looking for permanent fixes. We are doing just quick fixes here and there. You go on social media as I speak with you, the number of people complaining of hikes in their utilities, particularly for power, is alarming, where people go to ECG and they are told to come and pay 9,000, 8,000, 7,000 for normal electricity usage. and you ask ECG to account for it, and you are told that is the system and what there's a surge in your tariff, people are paying huge and heavily. Unfortunately, the more the people are contributing or paying to get the power sector stable, the more as though we are not even using the cash waterfall mechanism properly to ensure that those who have provided power or produced power to the grid, we are finding the money for them. So it's just quite murky. We would wish that beyond just the lip service, we see proper and realistic, policies on the ground that says that this month, this is how much Ghanaians contributed, 600 million. In dollar equivalent, that's about 50 million. We've been able to draw down on some of the debts. This is how much was produced, There should be some transparency in that sector. Unfortunately, as I indicated, if you speak to the IPPs behind the scene, you speak to other investors within the power space, it is as though we are simply walking on thin ice, and one day people will pull the plugs and we'll all go back to sleep in darkness.
And speaking about the IPPs, are we aware of these two outstanding IPPs that the government is yet to reach final agreements with? The Deputy Minister there pointing out that he wouldn't disclose the names of these companies. Do we have an idea?
Well, as I speak with you, if you check with the IPPs, a lot of them are not sure they have any agreement whatsoever. A lot of them, per my independent checks. And as I indicated, if you did just how much power they have put into the system, you are around 1.89 billion exposure. If you added fuel, you go to about 1.99 billion. If you added the contractual lines that we owe them, it's over 2.48 billion. That is how much we are exposed to. So if we say that we've made, progress with 4, we've not made progress with 2, I do not think that the 2 would accept anything or the 4 would accept anything other than payment. And that's exactly what they are waiting for. If the finance ministry has a way to make any advance payments to them, I am quite certain all the 6 will be magnanimous enough to keep the power on. But as I speak with you, they are not happy. Consumers are neither happy. Consumers are being charged by ECG heavily to pay for power that sometimes they haven't even consumed, or pay sometimes 100%, 200%, 1,000% of their previous, bills. Now, as I speak, there's VAT also being added by government to a sector that is largely becoming unsustainable. So we would need beyond the rhetoric, we would need beyond the assurances and the talk, we would need some action on the ground where the IPPs are given, if even bonds or whatever you are giving them, at least draw down on the debt so that they are comfortable to keep their plants on, give them the fuel they need so that their plants don't need to go off like happened, just a few days ago when West African Gas Pipeline said they were not going to continue to push gas to Ghana because they are not paying. We needed to wait for them to pull the plugs for us to go and pay 10 million. Clearly, we are not managing the sector as effectively as we should. And Ghanaians, including myself, continue to be very worried.
And the final question as to the alternative. If we're not going with the VAT approach, what will work?
Well, if you leave me, I would say that Ghanaians should start thinking of, alternate power sources, solar, if you can get a small plant, something that you can depend on, because the system, the grid as we speak of largely, is an unpredictable terrain, and anything at all could happen. If we're able to pay Nigeria, the West African gas pool, 10 million, left with 6 million indebtedness, what it means is that whatever they pump through tomorrow through GMPC is accumulated, or debts that are being accumulated, which we may not probably be in a position to pay for within a month or 2. And so the debt continues to hang. The IPP's debt continue to hang. We would rather want to sit and pay lip service. Meanwhile, we are charging Ghanaians for power. So whatever revenue we are taking, it doesn't look as though the cash waterfall mechanism is distributing that money to the sector players such that you and I can be comfortable that the entire year we're going to have light on. It's quite dicey. If people can invest in solar, they should go ahead. If they can invest in generators, they should go ahead. But the assurances without proper commitment by way of financing, for us, it's only talk, lip service. We are tired.
Nankanama, thank you for joining us.